Nigerian Shippers Council, in its capacity as port economic regulator, has the mandate to make doing business at Nigerian ports seamless. In furtherance of this objective, a sensitization program was held at NSC's headquarters in collaboration with the Presidential Enabling Business Environment Council, Pebec. The event brought together multi-agency stakeholders to deliberate on the challenges of agro-export and to gain insights into bottlenecks faced in the implementation of the National Action Plan 7.0. That's the main topic of today's episode on The Shipper. We shall also be joining Oluwasegun Aloko on our Tidbits segment for updates on goings-on in the maritime space, both locally and internationally. We'll be right back after this short break. Stay with us.
Nigerian Shippers Council, they to serve you well. No matter the problem, we go solve them for you.
Yes, so the Nigerian Shippers Council, they feel in a parole now for every level. And as soon as goods, they move from port A, go enter port B with a measure within on a need. For the Nigerian Shippers Council, we don't sharp proper to fit hear you wella, work with you wella, and help you fit serve your customers them better, no matter where them day. As we country port economic regulator, the Nigerian Shippers Council get every now to fit make government consider the problem where shippers them they face. Visit we office for number 4 or to buy your daily show your daily lane. Papa email us for nsc@shipperscouncil.gov.ng. We website now www.shipperscouncil.gov.ng.
For you, we dey gidigba.
Nigerian Shippers Council with a meeting now for the port of Nani.
Welcome back. This is The Shipper, brought to you by Nigerian Shippers Council, the nation's port economic regulator. My name is Rekia Zikru Yagoyaju. Nigeria is said to have 34 million hectares of arable land, of which only 6.5 million hectares are permanently cropped, while 28 million hectares are utilized for meadows and pastures. This translates into a mere 23% contribution by agriculture to the nation's GDP. We can do better. It was against this background that NSC and Pebec got together to organize this enlightenment program to encourage agropreneurs.
Multiplication of all these policies of the government, a lot of people coming into this exportation without know where they are going to, what their product is and what is obtainable in terms of when it gets to another country as an import. So all these things, that is what we need to look into and see how we can improve on all these things.
When they have the produce, before it can get out of the country, we need to check the quality, packaging, weight, and all that before they can take it out of the country. That when you have the moisture, not up to the normal one. By the time they take it out, it will get more because it's taking 35 days. You understand that? But when it's normal and it's the accurate moisture content, the produce is good to go. There's no country that will not take it.
I think the major thing that needs to be done is synchronization of all activities on export. There should be a one-stop shop, a one-stop portal whereby you can have the terminal operators, the PIA, the customs, anything documentation should be able to be done with your mobile phone from the comfort of your home. So anything you need to do physically at the port shouldn't take more than 24 hours.
Nobody has ever quarreled with having more money in their pockets or bank account, and this is why this program received the undivided attention of all who attended. Let's now join Lucy Nyambi as she presents the report brought back by the Shippers correspondent, Adishino Abiodun.
The immediate past administration set itself the goal to make doing business easier in Nigeria, particularly as multilateral institution developed parameters to measure ease of doing business in countries. In an effort to ensure that Nigeria did not compete for a place at the bottom of such rankings, in July 2016, the Presidential Enabling Business Environment Council, Pebec, was established. This intergovernmental and interministerial council was chaired by the then Vice President, Professor Yemi Oshimadu, SAN, and comprised 10 ministers, the head of the Civil Service of the Federation, the Governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, representatives of Lagos and Kano state governments, the National Assembly, and the private sector. Its mandate was to assist ministries, departments, and agencies of government in implementing the reform agenda through its Enabling Business Environment Secretariat. The agency created the National Action Plan 7.0, which focuses on 5 major areas: ports trade facilitation reforms, automation reforms, regulatory reforms, and Executive Order 01 Report Gov.ng compliance. Executive Secretary of Nigerian Shippers Council, Right Honorable Emmanuel Jime, who was represented at the event by the Director, Regulatory Services, Ms. Ifoma Ezedima, said the 2 major impediments to agro-export trade are access to finance and markets.
Everybody is aware of what is happening in this country. We are also aware that economic growth for this country is hinged primarily on export. There are 2 issues: impediments, access to market, and access to finance for export. There are countries that have aggressively driven exports, and those countries, they know the benefits of that. Their currency is more stable. It is stable for 3 or 4 decades. Some countries like Malaysia and other countries in the world. So it would be good if Nigeria is committed, really committed to facilitate trade, and aggressively drive those policies that would enable trade, both locally and internationally. Once again, I want to reiterate that identifying bottlenecks that impede the smooth export of agro-commodities, and there's a need to identify innovative solutions to overcome them.
He also noted that the issues start from the farm, leading all the way to the multiple processes at the ports. These issues he submitted are what the National Action Plan 7.0 are meant to tackle. He called on all stakeholders to avail themselves of this opportunity to identify impediments to trade and profile solutions.
We have yams in Nigeria and it's being exported by Ghanaians. How does that happen? We are aware that Pebec gave birth to the domestic export warehouses as well as the export terminals. Now, these 2 facilities are supposed to be able to talk to one another or actually collaborate so that we don't have charges duplicated in 3 places. What do I mean by 3 places? The export terminal, the domestic export warehouse, as well as the port. So, it's to streamline. Yes, it's a good thing, but if we have the domestic warehouse, is it doing the same thing as the export terminal? If it is doing the same thing as the export terminal, then there needs to be a way to collaborate. If they're not doing the same thing, then you still need to have a way of complementing the other. That's the way it should run, really. There has to be deliberate policies, like I mentioned, well thought out, that will aggressively drive export in Nigeria. If it means that we put Shippers Council and Pebec and all the government agencies that are represented here to identify these impediments group them, section them. Then we set up teams that would address each one so that solutions would be arrived at and recommendations on how to move forward that can be implementable, not just talking about it.
The Pebec project manager, Mr. Ayokunu Ojeni, in his address, explained that the ports and trade reforms seek to improve payment verification, enhance inspections to make them seamless, among other things.
We had 5 areas that we wanted to work on: port and trade facilitation reforms, automation reforms, regulatory reforms, legislative and judiciary reforms, and the executive order 01. And where we sit really, it's the first one, port and trade reforms. And at that time, there are a number of issues that we looked at under that bucket. In that bucket, one was to improve the payment and verification process. The second had to do with inspection. How do we enhance the inspection process, make it seamless, and also working with terminal operators and shipping lines. Very important part of the process, and also harmonizing and finding ways where the harmonization of documents will be improved. So for under payment verification, there was some work done with NXP process flow, integrating the SGID and NXP, and CBN and Customs sat on that, worked on that. The next slide had to do with NES payment to be integrated with NIPS and to enable a seamless process payment. And the goal then was to have a more efficient payment process. We got feedback from exporters that when they approached the bank, there had a number of issues with NXP and SGID, and that's why the verification process was thought about to work on at that time.
While stating that the complexities in the process defeat the ease of doing agro-export business in Nigeria, the Chief Executive Officer of a logistics company, Barrister Kolawe, enjoined participants to know their products, required documentation, specific standards, packaging for each product, and import procedures for the countries to which they are exporting their products.
The Nigerian document does not guarantee you success in export. True. It's not enough to guarantee you that you will execute a successful export. It is important that you know the import practice and procedure of the country that you're exporting to. Today I work for several multinational companies. Today, freight forwarding, not my export business. Why? I took time out to understand the process. What are the best practices involved there? What is the base of invoice? What types of invoice do you need? There are some countries you export to that you don't need just an invoice. You're exporting to India, you need a certified invoice by the NACIMA. What type of invoice do you have? What consular invoice exists? What kind of transaction is being accompanied by consular invoice? These are the things exporter must know. Failure for exporter to know some of these things simply means that the transaction ab initio is what? Is faulty.
Chief Kajitan Agu, Director, Consumer Affairs Department, in an interview with the shipper, reiterated the need for reducing domestic export documentation to 5 items or fewer.
In 2020, the National Trade Facilitation Committee carried out a review of the Nigeria's trade facilitation roadmap. And the outcome is not good. The outcome is not good. Take, for instance, the cost to export, at the Lagos port, as at that time, at the time of the study, is around $786. That's in terms of documentary compliance. They told you that there are 10 steps. So for you to comply with all these regulatory, requirements, you will spend as much as $786. And the sub-Saharan average is around $631.6. When you now take into consideration the developed economies, it's just $136.8. The time to export, at our port is around 124 hours. The sub-Saharan average is only 97 hours. So how do we compete? And there's another saying is that you see, WTO made it very clear. You either compete to survive or you perish. So we must wake up. We must wake up to compete to survive.
Deputy Director, Trade Services at Shippers Council, Ms. Adora Nwonu, said this multi-agency stakeholders enlightenment program was created to examine and prefer solutions to challenges that agro-exporters encounter in the course of doing business and to remove those impediments.
It's a two-way thing. So when you put out reforms there, your stakeholders also need to be aware of what you have done to improve the environment, and they should also be encouraged to test what you have done. If they don't test it, you probably don't know where to improve, where the lapses are, where to tweak the policies. So that is the essence of this. The exporters, the shippers, the stakeholders need to know what the government is doing to clean up the business environment, particularly with regards to removing impediments to export of agro-commodities. So they need to know that, and in the process, we get feedback from them. You can hear some of them also giving us their own side of their own experience, because the truth is that Mr. A's experience is not Mr. B's experience. Mr. B's experience differs from the what Mr. C's. Likewise, there are challenges. So one person has a challenge with shipping company, the other person has a challenge with maybe the inspection agency. So it's now for us to look at it holistically, dissect it, and begin to come up with specific solutions to their issues, because it can't be a one-size-fits-all. So the truth is that Nigeria has to be deliberate and intentional with what we're doing to clean up the business environment. That is the only time we can be actually competitive. We have to be deliberate about it, to remove bottlenecks, all impediments to export of their cargo. That way, it can be cost efficient. And while doing that, we're also building our own productive capacity while we're doing that. That's the essence of this.
The president of the Shippers Association of Lagos State, Mr. Leo Ogamba, commended Shippers Council and Pebec for their collaboration. Other stakeholders appealed that such enlightenment programs be held regularly.
Now that we have now woke up that to check these imbalances, all hands should be on deck. So it's a commendable, meeting. But there's much to do in terms of sensitization. The people that came here, it selected a few people. There's need for money to be made available to Nigeria's PASCO to make this thing nationwide, probably by zonal arrangement. Because every exporter needs to know what is required to be an exporter. And the money is involved. It's a big project.
This is a very good initiative, and we would like to appreciate the Nigerian Shippers Council. We are aware of their efforts. Even prior to this engagement, we've had several engagements with them. And we are very, very hopeful that there will be a positive outcome with today's gathering in line with the policy direction of the federal government to ensure that the export process is seamless.
The potential for Nigeria to grow export business is huge. It's really huge. It is largely untapped because of several reasons that we all know, security reasons, financing. And I'm happy that the issue about financing has been exhaustively dealt with here today by the representative from the CBN. The meeting has been able to address some of the key issues that our customers, exporters in particular, deal with on a daily basis. In the course of this meeting, a lot of those issues have been addressed. Actionable plans have been put together to see that these issues are dealt with once and for all. We look forward to those plans being actualized.
At the end of the program, participants formed groups to discuss how they would apply the knowledge gained individually and collectively.
Interagency collaborations are extremely important as they broaden perspectives of all involved. Agropreneurs will certainly benefit immensely from the outcome of this program. It's about time we all began to take full advantage of the opportunities offered by the huge amount of arable land with which Nigeria has been blessed. Let's now join Oluwasegun Aloko for our Tidbits segment.
During a recent visit by the president of the National Shippers Association of Nigeria, Engineer Innocent Akovoy, to Nigerian Shippers Council's headquarters in Lagos, Executive Secretary and Chief Executive Officer Honorable Emmanuel Jime who was represented by Director, Consumer Affairs Department, Chief Kajitan Agu, highlighted a pivotal role that the Council has played towards the development of inland dry ports, vehicle transit parks, and border information centers across various designated locations. Engineer Akuvwe announced plans by the association to sensitize shippers across the country and sought the Council's assistance in this endeavor. Chief Agu expressed the Council's readiness to support a planned nationwide shipper sensitization program and urged the association to advocate for a national single window system at the nation's seaports. Nigerian Shippers Council Southeast Zonal Coordinating Office, ABA, recently held a meeting with executives of the Abia State Shippers Association. The meeting had in attendance various Abia State officials and representatives from different organizations. According to the Director, Southeast Zone, Nigerian Shippers Council, Mrs. Margaret Ogbona, the purpose of the meeting is to ensure that smaller trade groups are incorporated into the Abia Shippers Association for effective and efficient trade in the region. She urged the Abia Shippers Association to become more active and proactive, aligning with counterparts in other parts of the country. We kindly request that all individuals involved in the maritime sector explore our website at www.shipperscouncil.gov.ng for more details regarding our services and to submit any grievances they might have. Let's now check the period 27th August to 2nd September 2023 to examine our record of reported complaints. A total of 5 complaints were submitted. 1 has been resolved, while 4 are ongoing investigations. The types of complaints include breach of contract, demurrage waiver, stealing and conspiracy, obstruction of justice, and damaged cargo. It's time to explore the latest advancement in the global maritime industry. To counter the global threat of pests transported via containerized supply chains, shipping lines, shippers, and governments are collaborating on measures. Australia and New Zealand already implement seasonal measures to combat pests. Discussions among stakeholders are ongoing to introduce actions that prevent costly infestations. Proposals include transitioning from wooden to steel or composite floored containers, custodial responsibility for inspection and cleaning, and publishing container data online for risk assessment. These measures, while addressing biosecurity concerns, could slow freight movement and raise costs. Up to 40% of global crops worth around $220 billion are lost yearly due to invasive pests. The Indian Ministry of Defense has signed a contract with Hindustan Shipyard Limited to acquire 5 fleet support vessels for the Navy, valued at about $2.3 billion. Weighing 44,000 tons, these vessels will be constructed domestically, aligning with self-reliance and Make in Indian initiatives. Enhancing naval strength and mobility, they will supply provisions to ships, extending operational time at sea, and aiding disaster evacuations. The project is a significant step fostering native shipbuilding and offering extensive employment opportunities over 8 years. Remember, India just landed on the south side of the moon. This is looking like it might be a cakewalk for them. Watsilia, a technology group, has been chosen by Brazil's Estaleiro Jurong Aracruz shipyard to supply power generation and conversion systems for the Brazilian Navy's Antarctic support. The scope includes diesel generating sets, a diesel-electric power conversion system, both thruster drive systems, and a power management system. Wasilia's advanced energy-efficient solutions aim to ensure optimal performance, high redundancy, and reduced emissions for the vessel, enhancing sustainability. Delivery is scheduled for 2024, with commissioning expected in 2025. And that's it on Tidbits for this week.
We meet you at the point of your need.
The Nigerian Shippers Council is now better poised with responsive systems in place to help you and other shippers get seamless, stress-free transition for your clients' goods from point A to B. Today at the Nigerian Shippers Council, timeliness, orderliness, transparency and efficiency is all we care about. Put your complaint through to our helpline. Visit us at number 4 Ayodele Shoyode Lane, Apapa, Lagos, or reach us on www.shipperscouncil.gov.ng.
Nigerian Shippers Council, we meet you at the point of your need.
Nigerian Shippers Council, we meet you at the port of your needs.
Time does fly when you're having fun. We shall be dropping anchor at this point as we terminate this week's voyage on the Shipper. Until we meet again, fair seas ahead.